Hi, everyone. We're going to get started. Welcome to our webinar on powering compliance, quality, and performance. We are very excited to show you what's new and measurable today. But before we do that, as always, a few housekeeping items. This session is being recorded, so you'll receive a follow-up email with the recording, key resources, any links that we mentioned today, and feel free to drop questions in the Q&A box via Zoom. We will have a live Q&A at the end of the webinar. Now, quick look at the agenda. We've got product updates across data ingestion, data quality, and compliance. I'm joined by Anthony Covarrubias, Zach Sheelan, and myself, Noelle Boland, Director of Product. We'll cover GRES results. We'll walk through product updates. We'll preview what's coming on the roadmap and then open it up at the end for Q&A. So let's dive in. So as mentioned, we're here to talk about what's new and Measurabl, what we've been building over the last year, what's live, what's coming. But first, I wanted to ground ourselves in where we're at in the calendar. It's early December. Hopefully, you all are about to take a well-deserved break. And then it's January. January hits and it's GRESB season for many of us. And a lot of what we shipped was designed with that in mind, making your data easier to collect, easier to trust, and of course, easier to report. But we also made major investments beyond GRES this year, so I encourage you to stay through the end of the session. Now, before we get into the product updates, I want to take a quick moment to celebrate what our customers accomplished this year. We've been supporting GRES now for over 11 years, and this year, 75% of funds achieved Green Star status. Over half improved their scores year over year. 7 funds ranked #1 in their peer group, and 23% earned 5-star ratings. And these results really reflect a lot of hard work, both yours and ours. And the product investments we've made over the past year are designed to make these outcomes you see on the screen more repeatable and hopefully less painful to achieve. And so now we're going to get into those product updates. And the last year we focused on 3 major areas: getting data in with less manual effort, more automation, making sure it's accurate. So we surface issues, giving you the tools to actually fix those issues, and making all of that entirely auditable. And then finally, helping you act on it, whether that's meeting a GRES deadline, staying ahead of compliance like Local Law 97, or just making it easier to make better decisions with your data. So I'll give you this quick overview, and then I will pass it off to Zach and Anthony. So I won't go through every highlight here. You can see the detail, but I'll give you a brief overview. So for data management, down at the bottom, that bottom bar, we launched Data Manager earlier in the year with gap detection and outlier detection. And over the course of the year, we've added the ability to resolve issues, resolve those outliers and gaps directly in the product. You can assign those issues to teammates, to property managers, for example, different folks on your team. And you can generate audit reports in Data Manager today. And this is a big deal. It means that you can manage your data quality, one of the biggest pain points our customers have, as a team, collaboratively, in one place that is completely audited without spreadsheets, which is really historically how lots of customers were doing it before. For data ingestion, we shipped a direct integration with PG&E. This is, again, a nod to data quality. Oftentimes in our world, we're scraping data from PDFs. For PG&E, that's no longer. We connect directly to their API, directly to their portal, which enhances and increases the data quality and timeliness. We've also rolled out our AI-powered utility bill data extraction tool. You can upload bills in the product, and now the extraction of that data is not only more timely, in seconds or minutes, but also more accurate. And the goal for data management really is less manual entry, less manual uploads, faster data with fewer errors. On the reporting and disclosure front, GRESB 2025 went live with a ton of enhancements. We launched fund allocation tracking, renewables procurement settings, and more. And with Insights, our embedded analytics tool in the product, we shipped some major updates here too. We added a carbon dashboard, which we're going to demo in a little bit, which supports custom emissions factors. So if you have your own location-based or market-based emissions, you can add those into the product today. We brought back weather normalization. We added subgroup filtering, improved navigation, so it's much easier to navigate both the default dashboards Measurabl provides, but also any custom reports that you have built. And finally, on the decarb BPS front, we've added more support for BPS, including New York City's Local Law 97. You can now see projected fines. You can see the impact of your energy efficiency projects and model those out. And you can really start to plan around compliance instead of reacting to it. So Zach is going to take you through the data ingestion piece, and Anthony will cover data quality and BPS. So we'll keep it moving.
Everything that Noel just talked about depends on data collection. If you're here, it's because you're in the business of adding value to your real estate portfolios by implementing savings projects that improve your net operating income and proving sustainability performance to investors who mandate high sustainability performance as a condition of making deals. What we're hearing from a lot of you is that there is a blocker that stands in the way of you focusing your time on driving those direct ROI outcomes for your business. And that blocker is data collection. All of the tracking down of different providers, property managers, operators, managing different spreadsheets and manual entry is taking time away that you should be spending on implementing savings projects and instead getting stuck in the rut of data collection. And so we move to the next slide. One thing I want everybody to take away from the webcast today is that Measurabl is moving real estate sustainability from data to impact. You're investing a lot of time in tracking down data across many different providers. We are automating data ingestion from thousands of providers across the globe. You're spending a lot of error-prone process time standardizing the formats that differ between those providers. We are transforming all of those formats into a single data model that you can take action on and report on to financial markets. And ultimately doing that is unlocking time for you, hundreds of hours per year, to invest in planning, executing, and then proving the impact of sustainability projects to your management and then also to financial decision makers across the market. On the next slide, I am thrilled to lead this off by talking about our direct utility data integration with Pacific Gas and Electric. Now that PG&E has required multi-factor authentication to log in, we have moved beyond username and password-based data extraction by building a direct data integration. That means that as soon as a customer authorizes us to get access to their data from within PG&E, we instantly ingest new meter reading data that PG&E posts to their database. There's no middle step of having to maintain account usernames and passwords. There's no waiting for PG&E to post a bill file and pulling data off of that file. What is in their database comes into Measurabl without any of those manual workflows. We already have dozens of customers that are using this integration already to save time and guarantee data quality. And what's great about this integration is that PG&E's data is in what's called the green button format that's adopted by utilities across the US. So your data is consistent. And PG&E has a wide scope. They serve 16 million accounts. And so if you have assets in PG&E territory that are not yet benefiting from this automation, definitely come and talk to us. If anything, even more exciting than PG&E is that we're expanding our data automation capabilities to the UK through a data integration and partnership with Purse. Purse is a UK data provider that covers 95% of the commercial building market in the UK. And so that means that through integrating with Purse, we can get access to whole building electric and gas data every month automatically. No collecting from property managers, no dealing with the complexity of hundreds of different utility providers or meter operators. We're able to get that data for you simply by getting a list of addresses of buildings where you need that data automated. This is especially critical going into 2026 reporting season, where you want to maximize your building coverage so that you can maximize your GRESB score and minimize the amount of time that teams are spending having to collect this data as they prepare for reporting season. Whether you're reporting in line with CSRD, EU taxonomy, or voluntary reports like GRESB. And because this data is automated, it eliminates those margins for error that come with transferring data between different sources, manual entry, and spreadsheet uploads. Finally, we know that automation sometimes isn't an option. Utility may not support it. You may not be able to get access to the information that you need in order to fully automate the process. And that's where Measurabl has you covered with bill upload, where you can upload utility bill files to our application. We automatically extract the data off of that bill for you, so you don't have to manually capture it. Now, I'm really excited to say that we have now enhanced our bill upload feature with AI-driven data extraction. And what's especially valuable about that is that using AI models to extract the data can generate data about 90% faster than other solutions that we've seen in this space. It takes data extraction from days to just minutes. And the data is much more accurate because the AI models are able to adapt much more smoothly to changes in utility bill formats and changes in wording. So if 1 month a utility provider changes their bill format to say consumption instead of usage, the AI models are able to adapt to that much more quickly without human intervention. And they can also learn how to better extract data across a bill as they start getting access to more and more information. And so that enables us to offer utility data extraction from bill files across electric, gas, and water providers globally with no format restrictions because we're able to adapt to all of those different formats, centralize that data very quickly within Measurabl. So that's how Measurabl is taking steps to free up your time to focus on driving ROI for your portfolio through data automation. And I'm going to pass it over to Anthony to talk about what we're doing to make sure that you can trust the quality of that data.
Thanks, Zach. We're going to rejigger the agenda just a bit. So we've been talking about getting data into the system faster and with better quality. But once you have that data, the next questions our customers ask is, how do we prove it's accurate? How do we give our investors and our lenders confidence in what we're reporting? And that is where our partnership with S&P Global comes in. Perhaps you've seen it on LinkedIn. We're hearing more and more that sustainability data needs to be externally verified, especially for high stakes reporting like GRESB, like we talked about earlier. So it's not anymore just about having complete data. It's about being able to stand behind it with third-party assurance. And S&P Global offers independent verification services, and their team can work directly with your data in the Measurabl platform. So you don't have to share it or export it directly in the platform. So I'm very excited to have Michael Tashner here with us. He's the Global Head of Sustainability Solutions at S&P. So Michael, thanks for joining. Can you walk everyone through what this partnership looks like and how verification works?
So, hi everyone. I hope you can hear and see me. Can you just give me a sign that it works? Oh,
Yes,
there.
Michael, we can hear you.
Perfect. That's awesome. It's good to see and to hear everybody, and we are super excited to actually have the chance to talk to all of you and to present you this new partnership that we launched recently together with the entire team. And as introduced earlier, the offering that we are or the services that we are providing is the verification and the data assurance service that follows the logic for GRESB data submission. And if we can move to the next slide, please. So the purpose of the entire offering is to increase the quality of the data and to support all of you to have more solid and more resilient data to be submitted. This helps the entire value chain pretty much to ultimately differentiate your fund in a sector which is extremely driven by data. It ultimately also helps to increase the scoring from GRESB because GRESB is explicitly asking if the data has been verified or assured. And this is a quality criteria that is very intensively asked also by those who consume the information, because of course the data is the foundation for making decisions, and the data should be at a standard that is at a high quality. And if we can move to the next slide, please. This is pretty much, it looks the same, but it's a different slide. It should indicate why the service actually adds a lot of value to the entire supply chain, or to the entire life cycle of the data as such. So we take a view at it from a confidential and a conflict-free perspective. The reason why we do that is that we literally don't do anything with this data. That means, and we are very experienced with data, the experience is represented by quality or qualified assurance experts, PCSAP. That's quite a mouthful of a certification. But this is a very important abbreviation because it indicates that anyone that is leading these services is certified and follows the principles of the AA 1000 standard from accountability. Why is this important? Because this standard does not only look at the data points independently, rather than that this is a very inclusive approach that follows the entire principles of the sustainability ecosystem, starting from materiality, inclusion, and the risk management topics that is considered in the consolidation, aggregation, and processing of the data. We do work together with you, with your experts, with the experts from the platform to optimize the flow of the extraction of the data. That means we extract information directly from the platform. We are familiar with the technicalities, therefore you can expect less I would say unnecessary feedback in terms of asking for formalities, rather than we are focusing really on the technicalities, which is associated to the evidence of the data, which is associated to the quality of the data. And that should ultimately increase the output or the data that is being submitted to GRASP in the end. We can move to the next slide, please. And this all follows a very straightforward approach. Even though we are talking a lot about it, it's extremely straightforward, and it's very intuitive. So we start with the scoping and the planning in the beginning of the project, which is scoping of the portfolio, timeline planning. Why are both of those elements so important? The scoping is important to understand what is the entire scope of the portfolio, and then also agreeing on what is the representative sample of the portfolio. And the timeline aspect is very important because we are all aware of that there is a final deadline in the end, which is end of June, and we are working backwards to also ensure that we find a good balance between the solid availability of the data plus also the allowing feedback time to remediate any findings, as this is a cooperative approach. It is not a one-way approach that we are doing our work, presenting the result, and that's it. Rather than it is really an approach where we are working together to mitigate any identified issues. The second step is the data provisioning. This is where we literally collect the data and where we download the data. We are taking 2 years performance data of all the KPIs. The next step is the verification as such. This is where we draw samples, but samples not based on, for example, a certain portion of AUMs, rather than we sample alongside every different KPI independently, and this ultimately leads to a very solid and a very complete coverage of the entire portfolio. And that ultimately leads to the fourth step, which is that we have an interview and a conversation with you to discuss the principles that have been applied, but also to discuss any findings and giving also some feedback on the observation and the chance to go one step back and mitigate them. And ultimately, it is the issuance of the assurance and verification statement and the management report that helps to learn from the findings and to also ultimately improve for the next years, or not only for the next years, but for future processing of the data. The overall engagement duration is between, it says 4 to 6 weeks. It can also be 2 weeks. It can also be, usually it's not longer than 6 weeks, but it is a very a very well planned period of time, between 2 and 6 weeks, pretty much. If you can please move to the next slide, which I think was the last slide. Yes. So that's pretty much it. And as I said earlier, the process is very straightforward. We do have a very solid, let's say, machinery that works alongside the requirements, and that's the setup that we have in place with our colleagues for Measurabl, and that's how we would like to also engage with you if you are interested in that. So thank you very much for listening in, and if you have any kind of questions, really please don't hesitate to either contact your contact from Measurabl, or you can also contact us if this is something of interest for you. Back to the Measurabl team.
Thank you, Michael. All right, we'll head back into the around data quality. So going back to what Zach shared earlier, automating data collection is key to unlocking value across your organization, but that is not the only factor to success. Having high quality data is also instrumental into achieving those outcomes. But as we all know, data quality is and has been an industry-wide challenge. The data is messy, from every utility having a bespoke bill format to every provider having slightly different web portals. There's just not a lot of consistency, and every organization handles this differently. But here at Measurabl, data quality is our #1 priority. Over the past year, we've invested and are continuing to invest significant resources to build further trust in the quality of your data. Given the term data quality, though, gets used a lot and often means different things to different people, here at Measurabl, we focus on these main attributes or definitions of data quality. Accuracy is about the data that you see in Measurabl, accurately matching or reflecting the data from the original utility bills, providing that foundation for all of your insights and reporting. Completeness is about having the necessary data for all of your buildings and meters and over relevant time periods, giving you a holistic view of your portfolio's data. Timeliness ensures that you have access to up-to-date data when you need it, allowing for timely analysis and decision-making. And finally, but not least, auditability is about having any changes to your data tracked and audit logged so you can trust the data you use and report on. Now, we also recognize that data quality can't be tackled alone. Everyone from property teams to data vendors have a role to play. That is why we have focused on delivering workflows in Data Manager that help teams track, review, and collaborate together to achieve the highest possible quality data within your organization. For example, you can now delegate data quality issues like gaps and outliers to others on your team directly from the product, perhaps replacing a manual process that involves downloading these into a spreadsheet and reaching out to individual property managers individually. Auditability-wise, we've added some on-demand audit reports, and we'll be adding more over time, as well as some more contextual activity logs embedded directly into the user experience. But to show how you can use these workflows, let's jump into a demo first. All right, everyone should be able to see what I'm showing here. So suspected issues with data accuracy are automatically identified and surfaced as outliers within this view in Data Manager. We provide as much detail or context as possible, such as some information about each of these outliers here, and a lot more that you can access over here and within this column selector. All this is here to help you review, prioritize, and ultimately resolve these data quality issues. And when it comes to data completeness, we also provide access to all gaps within your utility data, accessible here within the other section, within the check section of the application. Here you can also access any account issues impacting your connect or bill upload accounts, as those are often the culprits for temporary gaps in your data. But as I mentioned earlier, these outliers and gaps can now be assigned to others within your organization. So let's see how that works. I want to navigate to a specific outlier here. I can see some more information about this specific issue. And let's say I need to delegate this or want to delegate this to another person on my team or even the property manager. I can come in here. I see a list of users within our organization that has access to this building. We put the property managers up front just understanding that often that is who can help out the most. But for now, I'm just going to assign this to myself. I could go there, click that, hit save, and I am officially assigned to take over or resolve this issue. And for users who are assigned an issue, they will receive an email notification such as this. And this just summarizes all of these issues that were assigned to them over a short period of time. So they're not getting inundated with a lot of separate emails. But it provides that relevant information and gives kind of easy access to resolve each of these individual issues, as well as having access to see all the assigned gaps or outliers to click those, to go resolve those within the data manager. Now, going back to the slides, I do want to highlight an area that's not maybe an explicitly a product feature per se, but is fundamental to everything you do in Measurabl, and that's data security and data integrity. When you're putting sensitive building information, utility data, and emissions calculations into a platform, you need to know that the systems behind it are secure and the outputs are trustworthy. Measurabl is certified or compliant with SOC 2 Type 2, ISO 27001, and ISAE 3000 Type 2. These frameworks validate that our systems controls, and non-financial data processes follow rigorous industry standards for security, reliability, and auditability. We're also pursuing ISO 14064, the global standard for greenhouse gas accounting, with certification expected early next year. This will provide independent verification that our emissions calculations and methodologies align with internationally accepted, sorry about that. This will provide independent verification that our emissions calculations align with internationally accepted best practices, something that's becoming increasingly important for disclosure and investor confidence. And importantly, we're one of the first platforms in this space to pursue this level of independent third-party validations. And that's because we see this as table stakes for where the industry is heading, especially as expectations around reporting and assurance continue to rise. And so really all of these certifications work together to ensure that when you submit to GRES, respond to an LP request, or share performance data externally, you can stand behind that information with confidence. Now, I'll move on to some improvements related to our capabilities around compliance risks. So, as we should know or have seen, even as federal climate policy slows, local and state governments are accelerating performance-based regulations for buildings. By next year, about a quarter of all US buildings will fall under a building performance standard. Rapid growth compared to just a few years ago. There are now about over a dozen active BPS laws, with several of them already enforcing those final rules, meaning fines and penalties are already happening today. And over 30 additional jurisdictions have committed to adopting BPS, so regulatory coverage will just continue to expand. Given this landscape, it's clear there is increasing urgency for greater visibility into compliance risk. Because these types of risks are becoming more localized, more frequent, and more financially material, having accurate data and proactive insights is essential. So to that end, our goal here at Measurabl is to help customers get ahead of these risks, not react to them after the fact. For example, New York City's Local Law 97 is now integrated into DCARB, giving users clear visibility into which buildings are exposed, when fines begin, and the scale of potential penalties under the current rules. But we're not stopping at visibility. Measurabl can support the entire readiness journey. Our ordinances feature helps owners quickly understand what regulations apply to their buildings. DCARB can then quantify the risk for those supported BPSs and also help plan the actions and investments needed to reach compliance. And in addition to those potential CapEx investments needed, our optimized products can help site teams reduce energy use and carbon emissions through operational insights and improvements. The message here is that Measurabl gives owners a complete path from understanding their regulatory risk to actually mitigating it. turning BPSs like Local Law 97 from a compliance burden into a structured plan for readiness. But let's do a brief demo of how you can understand your compliance risk, though, with decarb. All right. So the portfolio compliance view in decarb helps you quickly understand the impact of BPS across your affected assets. From here, you could prioritize which buildings needs your attention the most based on compliance timelines, first year fines, or the estimated fines if no actions are taken. But from here, you can take, kind of deep dive into a specific building that you do need to take action on or need to prioritize further. So let's go ahead and look at this building here for New York Local Law 97. Right. And from here, we show some KPIs related to the fines, avoided fines, and estimated fines to kind of give you a quick understanding of the impact of those BPS. And this impact simulation chart can quickly let you see how these BPS targets get stricter over time, such in this case as Local Law 97. And we also show how if nothing is done, that these fines will start accruing for this building in 2030 when the building's projected emissions are expected to exceed those limits from Local Law 97. But the goal here is that by implementing certain projects like a rooftop solar PV or other energy upgrades within your building, you can reduce or even eliminate those fines from these BPSs, helping you make the business case for those investments. So going back to the slides here, let's talk about one last topic related to ordinances. So in addition to helping owners understand and mitigate compliance risk, Measurabl also supports the required ordinance filings that many jurisdictions mandate each year. With 2026 reporting season fast approaching, now is the time for owners to get ahead of these requirements, especially as more cities tighten rules and expand coverage. We support filings across more than 40 city and state programs, completing thousands of filings each year for hundreds of owners. And this process is fully managed from data collection through final submission, with the accuracy required to ensure complete and compliant reports. Together, these capabilities help your organization stay compliant so you and your team can focus on higher value, more strategic work.
Thank you, Anthony. So let's spend a few minutes on insights. So for those of you that are not familiar with our insights module, you can think of insights as a BI or business intelligence tool directly embedded into the Measurabl product. But the hard work of connecting and mapping all of the data across your sustainability portfolio is done for you by Measurabl. So I'm going to jump into insights now. And I want to give you a bit of the lay of the land of the insights module before jumping into that carbon dashboard we mentioned earlier. So we're in insights, and what we have in insights are workbooks or dashboards that are created by Measurabl. We have dashboards related to carbon, certifications and ratings, sustainability performance. These are dashboards that are rolled out to every customer that uses the Measurabl Insights product. But with Insights, really with its power, you can create custom dashboards with any data point in Measurabl, using any filters, and those are stored here in My Documents. As mentioned earlier, we made some enhancements here, some better user experience. This left-hand nav was rolled out earlier this year. You can actually collapse this to have a larger view for your analysis. And this brings us to the carbon dashboard. So we have at a high level your carbon KPIs for the time period for which you specify. So we're looking at 2024 versus the prior calendar year. I have my carbon emissions, both absolute and intensity here in this graph. We have widgets for emissions per energy type. So electric carbon emissions, district, fuel, and of course, that information broken out by scope 1, 2, and 3. And all of these KPIs have a % change from the current performance period to the prior comparison period. And we also showcase this information over time, looking at your energy, carbon emissions, your EUI over time on this graph. I mentioned earlier we released the ability to specify your own custom emissions. So before we get into that, we have essentially the data we just saw on the dashboard visualized in a spreadsheet if that's, more preferable for you. So we have the energy use intensity per building, we have the carbon emissions per building, all in kind of a spreadsheet embedded into insights. And down below, you can actually override the factors that are used for these buildings in this custom emissions factor section here. So for 10 Main Street, I've added custom factors for various historical time periods. So for 2025, 2024, 2023, I can keep going back historically. I added custom factors for that particular building. And you can do that for as many buildings as you'd like, for as many historical time periods as you'd like. And the data I add there then gets rolled up here in this custom dashboard. So any custom factors that I associate to a building will be overridden by the default factors that Measurabl uses, and then that will be representative in this dashboard. A really great feature of insights, not just within the dashboard itself here for carbon, but across the module at large, is this configuration piece. So lots of standard filters you'd expect to see with the BI tool, performance period versus comparison period. We've introduced the ability to filter by subgroup. So lots of our customers organize their portfolios by the different funds they manage, maybe by geography or property type. So you can look at emissions for just those groupings. You can look at this dashboard for an individual asset. So looking at 10 Main Streets emissions over time, broken out by scope. You can do the same for property type, country, the list goes on. And I think a filter that many of our customers were happy about to be incorporated in this dashboard is filtering by landlord versus tenant. Can I see just my tenant emissions? And the answer is yes. So you select this tenant filter here, which will aggregate all of the meters that are being paid by your tenants. And you can close that filter and the dashboard will update depending on that filter. It's worth noting this is another kind of feature functionality that is insights broadly and not just this carbon emissions dashboard, is getting the data out of insights. So we're currently analyzing in the platform. All of your sustainability data that's here can be sliced and diced and customized, or you can use these default workbooks that Measurabl has provided. But you can also get this data out. So if you want to export this information, you can do so via email directly in the product. You can email this dashboard to various internal stakeholders, external investors. You can actually choose which part of the workbook you want to export. If you don't want to include those custom factors, for example, you don't have to. You can include just this dashboard here. And this is true for every dashboard that you have within Insights, whether one that Measurabl has created or one that you have created. Lots of flexibility in terms of format, things like that. And you can export this information again out to any external party. All right, let us jump back into the slides. And head into what is upcoming next. So this is a brief overview of our product roadmap, and we'll look at Data Manager first. So we're continuing to build out workflow surrounding data quality. Anthony demonstrated what we have in Data Manager today, surfacing up gaps, outliers, account issues, and workflow around that, being able to assign those issues to teammates, them receiving email notifications and coming into the product to fix those issues. We're going to build upon that. We're also going to focus on data collection, bulk importing meter readings, commenting on meter readings. We're adding more audit reports to the platform for spaces, certifications, and things like that. And we'll also be introducing a data quality overview dashboard. So at a glance, you can see your data quality health and what that looks like today and over time. On data collection, again, we'll be rolling out, as Zach mentioned, this integration with PERS to automate the flow of utility data for electric and gas. Reporting and disclosure, GRESB, of course, is a big focus for us. 2026 updates per their methodology changes. We'll roll those out as they're finalized. We're also enhancing, as Anthony mentioned, our ISO 14064 support and building an EU taxonomy dashboard. So both of these are direct responses to customer and regulatory needs. And then finally, we like to call out our innovations on AI and machine learning. We're going to continue that rollout of that smart bill upload functionality I mentioned earlier. This is our proprietary ability to take a PDF bill, a utility bill, extract the data from that bill with more accuracy and faster timeliness. We're taking that same technology, actually, and applying it to EPCs. So for the European folks on the call, we're going to roll out that functionality to make it easier and faster and more accurate to extract data from EPCs using that same AI tech. Now, there's one more aspect of this presentation I want to chat about before we wrap up. I want to spend a minute on something that's available to everyone on this webinar today, which is our free solution. Now, a few months ago, we made a portion of Measurabl's product available for free. And I want to be clear that it's not a trial, it's not limited time, and it's not a stripped down demo. It's a fully functioning product. And in terms of what's included, you can map regulatory compliance across all 50 states. So you can see which ordinances, which BPS apply to your buildings that you add to the platform for free. You can also boost your data quality with the free offering. We surface up gaps in the free offering, and you can address those gaps in the product. And finally, you can also benchmark your performance against all of the peers in Measurabl. And so if you have buildings that aren't in the platform yet, or if you know someone that's been hesitant to try Measurabl, this is a complete no-risk way to get started. And you can sign up at measurabl.com, as you can see on the screen here, /free account. Now, some of you are probably already using Energy Star Portfolio Manager. And if so, this slide is for you. So ESPM has really been the backbone of North American benchmarking for years. And it does exactly what it was designed to do, which is to provide a trusted, free platform for compliance, basic benchmarking in the US and Canada. And our free solution builds on that incredible foundation, but it also extends it. And we do know what that will take because the person who built ESPM is leading that effort. So Mike Zatz led Energy Star Portfolio Manager for 19 years and made it the most successful benchmarking platform in North America. And he joined Measurabl this year as our SVP of Global Data Ecosystem and Partnerships. And he's now taking the principles that made ESPM successful, so free access, trusted data, and importantly, stakeholder driven, and applying those principles globally. And so that looks like global reach, coverage across 90 countries, not just North America. You get expanded benchmarks built from actual measured utility data across 100 asset types with monthly updates. This gives you 4x the amount of properties to benchmark from. You get more data quality tools, more robust checks that help you identify anomalies, utility issues, with both the visibility and the tooling in the product, like you saw earlier, to resolve those issues. You also get bidirectional sync with Energy Star, so you can use both for free, and your data stays connected. And finally, there's a bit more storage, so you get certifications, storage in Measurabl, ratings, audits, asset value, again, all stored for free in perpetuity. And we're finding that this is already working. In just 2 months since we launched the free solution, we've seen more than 2.2 billion square feet added to the platform, 13,500 buildings across 43 countries. And what's great is that that's not just growth for us, but it's growth for all of you. It's stronger benchmarking for everyone on this call. More data means more accurate and trustworthy peer comparisons, better data quality across the industry, and more complete coverage for everyone that uses the platform. And so what we're seeing is that this is what happens when you remove friction. When you make it easy to get started, we're learning that people actually do. And so with that, I'm going to wrap up the demo aspect of our webinar and get to some Q&A. So please add any questions you have, and we can go ahead and address those. We had one question surrounding the ISO 14064 certification, and does that extend to our free version of the core platform? And the answer is yes. The ISO 14064, in addition to all of the certifications that Anthony presented earlier, extend to our entire product, free or the modules that we demoed earlier today, like Insights and Decarb. So all the certifications extend to every aspect of our product and functionality. All right, it's looking like there are no more Q&A, so I'm going to close out and just thank you all for joining us with this product webinar. Thank you again to Michael from S&P, Anthony and Zach. Hope everyone has a great day and a great holiday season.